Ever since Elden Ring's release, Sir Gideon Ofnir has been a really confusing and interesting point for me. For example, Sir Gideon Ofnir's helmet looks like a banana in two sacks. Around this symbol there's all spiky bits. Does this mean that Sir Gideon Ofnir secretly has a radioactive STD? Questions like these and more have circled around Sir Gideon Ofnir, and in today's video I want to talk about his secrets. Obviously, if you're already subscribed, don't listen to this part. But a small percentage of the people that watch these videos are actually subscribed. If you do end up enjoying the video, and only if you do end up enjoying, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Without any more further diddle-daddling, please sit back, relax, grab some succulent, juicy, tender and sensational prawns if you want, and enjoy as we delve into Sir Gideon Ofnir. One of the first things Elden Ring tells us is that Gideon is all-knowing, and this is proven to us time and time again, until we come to the realisation late in the game that he is the most unknowing, slow and thick-headed guy in the lands between. And that is a sort of belief that a lot of people have believed, but I want to challenge that. I do not believe that Sir Gideon is as out of the loop as the lore seems to suggest. I first want to talk about his scarabs. Right, so it's been common knowledge for a long time now that the scarabs are in fact spies. If you look on the backs of the scarabs, you'll find Sir Gideon's logo, his little brand, which he then uses in his boss fight. Furthermore, the eye surcoat states that this symbol is worn by the eyes and ears of Sir Gideon Ofnir. Going on from this, we find these scarabs everywhere, and I mean everywhere. A lot of people have taken his boss fight the fact that as time progresses and you tell him information, he gets more and more incantations inside of the eventual boss fight. People have took this that he doesn't have information, and the fact that he's learning from us shows that in fact he's not very knowledgeable. And yet, before we even get to the places in the lands between, before we even get the chance to tell him these intricate details, he already has scarabs there. How on earth is that possible? And I don't just mean slight scarabs. One that's stuck in my head a lot is the consecrated snowfields. You need the medallion of Miquella. Not just anyone can get up there, and yet his scarabs are found in the mountaintop of the giants, not just in the consecrated snowfields. This opens up a really interesting point. A lot of people immediately believed Latenna is in fact telling the truth, and that Sir Gideon did in fact order the attack upon the Albinauric village. Yet we are told the reason that he attacked this village was due to the fact of the Albinauric medallion, which leads to the Halig tree and the consecrated snowfield by proxy. And yet if his scarabs are in fact up in the consecrated snowfields already, what's the point? Why on earth would he attack this village? And I think the answer lies right there. He didn't. Something that further reinforces the idea that Sir Gideon Ofnir wasn't just all bark and no bite is his armour. Sir Gideon Ofnir talks about gazing into a truth of Marika, what she intended for the world, and he shuddered in fear. This stoic man was brought to fear, and I can't help but wonder what that is. And how on earth did he figure it out? I was looking through item descriptions, anything that might give us some sort of hint as to how he came up with this, how he revealed the truth, and how he knows what is going to happen. And I think I found it. The Lord's Divine Fortification Incantation states, incantation taught to Gideon the All-Knowing by the Two Fingers. Greatly increases holy damage, blah 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 blah. Gideon gained true knowledge after his long exchange with the Two Fingers, discovering all that had been broken long ago, that the trembling fingers, bent with age, and the erdtree itself were no exception. Prior to the DLC, this would have made no sense. People would have been scratching their heads, making all sorts of connections that really would have gone nowhere. But with the DLC, we finally understand. Marika's age was built on the destruction of the Hornsent and their culture. Their whole culture is a lie. The Greater Will is in fact more likely Matir, the Mother of Fingers. We know from the DLC that the rumoured Greater Will is actually acting as Matir, for there is in truth no Greater Will around, or at least there hasn't been in countless millennia. Gideon is known as the All-Knowing, so is it any shock that he's discovered the truth, that he knows of the Lands of Shadow? It is very, very much not stated inside the base game of anyone who knows of the Lands of Shadow. And while yes, of course, there's a lot of people inside of Elden Ring's base game that should be talking about the Lands of Shadow, especially considering their kin are in there, especially considering the significance to all of their stories, and yet Sir Gideon Ofnir, in his item description, seems to be hinting at a land that was released 2 years after this item description. I've never really believed or been a fan of the argument that From Software just threw the Lands of Shadow in there at the last minute and then it wasn't planned in the original design of Elden Ring. I think this is another great example of why that is the case. Another example being that you can slot the maps together from the two and it fits perfectly. We've talked about what he knows, but now I want to talk about how he knows. Everyone is so tight-lipped about the Lands of Shadow, so that leads me to believe that he was in the Lands of Shadow, and that might make no sense, and I get it, but it actually makes more sense than it might seem. Sir Gideon Ofnir seems like one of the oldest Tarnished that we meet inside of Elden Ring, yet it's never explicitly told where he comes from. We get slight hints at the other Tarnished. For example, Fear comes from some tomb, we've got Godfrey who comes from the Badlands, but Gideon? We don't know. He knows intrinsic details, or at least we suspect he knows intrinsic details, about the previous age that not many people are privy to. It is only fitting, in my opinion, that he is from that age, and he is from the Lands of Shadow. Now, what group he's actually from inside the Lands of Shadow, I'm not particularly sure, but it seems he was deemed worthy enough to travel to the new lands between, while all others were left to rot in the Lands of Shadow. In his first life, he seems to have achieved amazing things. For example, if you actually go and look at his little staff, you'll notice in his hand he has a globe. Sea travel is mentioned inside of Elden Ring, and yet Sir Gideon's depiction is identical as to how it should be. We see a moon in the sky, so it should be orbiting us, and we know that our planet is a planet, it's round, just like in this scepter, so there shouldn't be any difference with the planet inside of Elden Ring. The fact Sir Gideon has a depiction that good suggests to me that he has been on a lot of adventures, and he is very, very much knowledgeable. Getting on to what I actually wanted to say when I brought this up, Sir Gideon Ofnir in his first life lived a long, adventurous life. He got a knighthood and his coffin is filled with riches. I truly believe that it perhaps was in his first life that he realised the truth, that he realised that everything was fucked up. Even if we're to disregard that, the whole idea of Sir Gideon Ofnir is so tragic. He's forced into an existence where he has to be perpetually stuck in torment, as that is Queen Marika's wish by his own words. There's no doubt in my mind he doesn't particularly like this existence, but he has no choice. He does not have a say in the matter. It's already made up for him, as he is a tarnish brought back by the grace of gold. What these last 4 minutes are building up to what I'm about to say. In Sir Gideon's last few moments, hell, one of the last few moments inside of Elden Ring, he tells us that a man cannot kill a god, not even you. The not even you line suggests he does respect us, and yet it's the other words and the tone that he uses which takes up all my focus. A man cannot kill a god. He is convinced of this in his bones. What does he know that makes him so convinced? And what is the possibility? What if he was right? What if a man can truly not kill a god, and we've played into their hands and they've won? From Software is no stranger to dark endings, and most of From Software's games, all of their endings have some secret hidden meaning which makes you think on second glance, wait a fucking minute, this is bloody evil. And I think there's more of that in Elden Ring. Of course you got the Dung Eater ending, the Frenzied Flame, which yes I love as well, but if you look at it objectively it is evil. But considering what we know of the other endings, they don't seem as bad. Given the fact when you reinstate the Golden Order, yeah, of course, it's going to be bad, but not as bad as the others. And yet, considering what we've talked about in today's video, it makes me wonder, what is Marika's plans for the rest of her future? What is her plans for the lands between? What makes Gideon so fearful? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. What's scary, though, is the only ending that doesn't involve Marika still being alive is the Frenzied Flame ending. So out of the half a dozen endings, only one of them involves Marika not still being in control of the lands between. The fact that this skull corpse thing is still in control, somewhat considering it is the base for the Elden Ring in every single ending, gives me a bit of the heebie-jeebies. I don't know, I'm really curious to see what you all have to say, as I think this is a really interesting topic and I just love it so much. So everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Without any further diddling, because I know I ramble on at the end, please don't you dare go hollow, friends, and may you find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye.